I think people misunderstand overthinking in relationships. Most people assume it comes from distrust. Like, they think if someone overthinks, it means they must be jealous, controlling, or always looking for problems. Like they're suspicious by nature. Like they just don't know how to relax. But I don't think that's always true. At least it wasn't for me. At least it wasn't true for me. Because when I used to overthink, it was never really about not trusting her. It was about not trusting myself to be good enough. And that is a very different kind of pain. I didn't sit there thinking she was a bad person. I didn't think she wanted to hurt me. I didn't think she was secretly trying to replace me. What I thought was worse than that. I thought if the right person came along, she'd realize she could do better than me. That's what overthinking looked like in my head. Not suspicion, comparison. When you already feel replaceable, love becomes hard to trust. Not because the other person is doing anything wrong, because your mind already believes there are better options everywhere. Better looking people, funnier people, more confident people, stronger people. People who just seem easier to love. People who you'd walk into a room and you don't even have to try. And if you spent enough time doubting yourself, your mind starts assuming anyone you care about will eventually notice them too. That's the side people don't really see. From the outside, overthinking looks dramatic. It looks annoying. It looks like someone making a problem out of nothing. But from the inside, it feels like trying to survive something invisible. Because when someone matters to you, small things stop feeling small. A late reply doesn't feel like 10 minutes. It feels like distance. A dry text doesn't feel like a mood. It feels like interest fading. Them laughing with someone else doesn't feel normal. It feels like proof they'd be happier without you. And most of the time, none of it's true, but your body reacts like it is. I think some people overthink because they don't trust others, but I think a lot of people overthink because they don't trust themselves to be enough. That's why reassurance never lasts long. They can tell you they love you, they can tell you they care, they can tell you they're not going anywhere, and for a moment, it helps. Then your mind starts again. What if they change? What if they realize I'm not worth it? What if I'm only temporary? What if they meet someone who has everything I don't? And eventually, you just become exhausted. Not just from worrying, from trying to hide the worrying. Because you know how it looks. You know asking, are we okay? Too much can feel heavy. You know needing reassurance too often can push people away. You know fear can come out like sounding pressure. So you try to act calm while your mind is falling apart. And that kind of tiredness is hard to explain. I'm going to give you a little story about my past experience with this topic, because I think stories explain feelings better than advice ever can. I was with someone I cared about deeply, and at the start, things felt easy, natural. I didn't have to think so much. I just enjoyed her. I enjoyed talking to her. I enjoyed the feeling of knowing someone chose me. But over time, I started noticing everyone around her. The guy that seemed funnier than me. The guy that looked better than me. The guy that was more confident than me. The ones who could make people laugh without trying. The ones who seemed like they'll never have to question wherever they were enough. And slowly, I started comparing myself to people who I didn't even know was competing with them. And that's how insecurity works. It creates contestants that don't even exist. and it makes you feel like you're losing them. I'd see her take longer to reply, and my mind would instantly build a story. She's bored of me. She's talking to someone better. She's realizing I'm not enough. She's losing interest. Again, none of this came from anything she actually did. It came from the way I already saw myself. That's the part I wish more people understood. Sometimes overthinking says more about your self-worth than it does about your partner. There were nights where only one dry message could ruin my whole mood, where one small shift in energy have me replaying everything, wondering what changed, wondering if I did something wrong, wondering if this was the beginning of the end. And while she probably just had a normal day, I was fighting scenarios that only existed in my own head. Then eventually, I started speaking from that pain and fear. I'd ask questions with a hidden panic behind them. I need reassurance she didn't even understand why I needed it. I'd react to things she didn't even realize mattered. And from my side, I thought I was trying to protect the relationship. But from her side, it probably just felt heavy. That's the sad thing about overthinking. Sometimes you can love someone deeply and still make them feel blamed. You can care so much and still create distance. You can want peace so badly that you accidentally destroy it, because fear changes the atmosphere, even if love was always there. And I had to admit something painful to myself. The issue wasn't that she had better options around her. The issue was I believed she should want them more than me. So I acted insecure before anything bad even happened. I treated imaginary competition like it was reality. I made fake scenarios in my head. And that slowly damaged something that may have been fine if I just trusted the moment I was in. I think when someone feels deeply imperfect, they start expecting abandonment easy. So they look for signs everywhere. They don't emphasize peace. They don't enjoy peace. They monitor it. They don't relax into love. They prepare for loss. And when you live like that, even good relationships feel unstable. People say overthinkers need to trust more. Maybe that's true. But I think first, they need to feel worthy enough to stop assuming they're one mistake away from being replaced. Because trust is hard when your self-worth is low. You can't build security on top of self-hate. I wish I understood earlier that being chosen doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean being the funniest in the room, the best looking, the strongest, the most impressive. A lot of people are chosen because they feel safe, because they're kind, because they're honest, because they're consistent, because they make someone feel understood. Things insecurities ignore because they're harder to measure. That's why comparison is so dangerous. Comparison only notices obvious things: looks, status, attention, confidence. It rarely measures loyalty, depth, patience, presence. The way someone makes another person feel calm. The quiet things that often matter more than anything flashy ever could. If you're someone who overthinks the people you like, maybe it isn't because you're toxic, maybe it isn't because you're controlling, maybe it's because some part of you still believes you're easy to leave. And if that's true, the real battle was never them. It was always the story you believed about yourself. Because no amount of reassurance can permanently heal a wound that kept reopening from inside. That healing has to happen where the damage started, in the way you see yourself. And I think that's the real tragedy of overthinking. It isn't about makes you worthy. It There can be something or someone feeling unloved while you were actually loving them the hardest you knew how. You weren't trying to control them. You weren't trying to control the fear of losing them. You weren't angry. You were scared. You weren't suspicious of them. You were suspicious of yourself. And one day I realized something painful. I kept waiting for someone else to make me feel secure, when insecurity was only the third person in the relationship the whole time. Sometimes people don't lose love because somebody better arrived. Sometimes they lose it because fear never let it be peaceful. And that's hard to accept when all you ever wanted was to keep them.